Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. So I came across this tweet from Peacock about this sitcom called, apparently We Are Ladyparts. First of all, that is an awful band name and I will get into that in a moment. But when I saw this, I was like, this looks interesting, right? All female band, all, there several of them appear to be Muslim, so I decided to look into it a bit. So this is sort of my opinion based on the information that I have found. Now, I want to be clear about this. I have no issue with them making a sitcom or a TV show about an all-female band. I listen to classic rock. Okay, I've listened to The Runaways, I've listened to Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I've listened to Heart, I've listened to more than enough either female-fronted bands like Garbage or all-female bands like The Runaways and various others. So I have no problem with female musicians. And, okay, they're of a certain religion. I'm not. I don't much care. Although I do think that the particular faith that they are a part of, being Islam, is going to present some storytelling challenges, and I'll get into that, especially because of the emphasis and strictness of modesty among women, generally speaking, in the Islamic faith. But as a story, like, I don't care if they're Muslim or Jewish or Christian or atheist or anything else. That doesn't matter to me. So I just want to make that clear because, you find some person and they get offended, so I make it clear. They want to do a story about Muslim rock band of all women? Okay. I'm just wondering if they've considered any of the actual storytelling challenges, right? Trying to balance out these two things that are very opposites, right? Rock and roll, a musician's life, which is very physical, primal, sexual. You're traveling all the time. You're away from home, away from your family. You know, temptation waits. It abounds. It's everywhere. And then you have, the general demands of not just the Islamic faith, but, just a Judeo-Christian religion in general, right? Which, for the most part, rejects the worldly things, right? So you stay close to home, you lead a relatively simple life, you don't get involved with sex, drugs, and rock and roll, stuff like that, right? So there's a reason why it's called the devil's music, right? But anyway, so let's get into the synopsis here, right? So this comes from the internet, Wikipedia, I think, or whatever, Google. Of course, Rotten Tomatoes gave it 100. But anyway, it says here, geeky biological engineering PhD student Amina Hussein becomes the unlikely lead guitarist of Ladyparts, an all-female Muslim punk band on a mission to get a proper gig. Syra, the band's fierce and enigmatic frontwoman. I wonder if that's the lady with the giant Union Jack earring on. Sees something in Amina the others can't. Syra leverages Amina's desperation to find a husband. Oh God, honey, if she gets involved in rock and roll scene, she'll find a husband, she'll find a few baby daddies. But anyway, and offers to set her up with potential matches if she agrees to join. Torn between her straight-laced university friends and members of Ladyparts, Amina tries to find her voice, right? So this sounds, at least by the synopsis, very similar to Cuties, actually, in that the story was supposed to be about this young Muslim girl, right? Young black, more or less, right? Senegalese or whatever. This young black Muslim girl, being torn between her very traditional Muslim family and then, of course, the very worldly, sensual, sexual dance troupe that she was a part of, right? So it sounds like Cuties, but with at least college age people, so legal adults, and rock and roll. Well, in this case, punk. And look at me with my punk-ish haircut. I don't know, but anyway, here's the thing. As I said earlier, I'm just wondering how they're going to tell this story and if they're going to be honest about what would likely happen in this situation. First of all, I wonder, in particular for the fundamentalist, and I want to be clear. I understand that, like any other religion, Islam is not a monolith. It has many different sects. Um, some are more traditional and fundamentalist. Some are a bit more, I wouldn't say secular, but they're a bit more, I guess, just not as fundamentalist, right? Not as traditional, right? For example, some where the face veil, right, where you just see the eyes. Others just have the what happened? Others just have the hijab, right? As we see here. So we see one of them, right, it looks very traditionalist, right, with only her eyes showing, and then the other one seemed to be a bit more, I guess you would say, modern, wearing the hijab, and then I guess you see the most overtly punk of them all with the haircut and the Union Jack earring, and then you have the girl with uh, the headscarf on, right? And then you see the jacket. I'll say the jacket's nice. That's pretty cool, right? But I understand, and I will admit, my knowledge of Islam as a faith is probably just very basic, right? But generally speaking, to my understanding, and if you are a Muslim or if you have a deeper understanding of it than I do, please let me know. But generally speaking, Islam has a strong focus and emphasis on the modesty of women. This is not to say there is not a modesty demanded of men, but there is certainly a strong code of modesty, right? Strong demands of modesty on women, right? Sometimes you can't even, again, depending on which one, right? Sometimes you can't even show your hair, right? And they often, and some, again, some, not all, but, some, the ones who are a bit more adherent, right? They'll wear, long flowing clothing where you don't see, anything but maybe their hands and their face, right? So I just wonder how they're going to balance out, the demands of the faith, right, as regards female modesty, with punk, because punk is literally the opposite of all that. Punk is indecent. Punk is immodest. Punk is loud. Punk is angry. Punk is assertive, aggressive, abrasive. It's about throwing middle fingers up and giving everybody a big old F you. Right? So, how are they going to balance this out? Right? Have these girls be, at least in the beginning, I would imagine, it's just the first season. It only started like less than a month ago. But how are they going to have these girls be adherent to their faith and at the same time be in a punk band? Punk is more than a sound. Punk, especially for the ones who are serious, is a lifestyle. It is the literal opposite of everything that Islam or any Judeo-Christian faith would ever teach or condone for men or women, right? So there's that. First of all, the second thing is, okay, if it's an all-female punk band, then like again, because of the for the what's it called, decency, right? I know that in some uh, Muslim sects or Muslim faiths, right, women and men are more or less just supposed to keep separate, right? Unless it's your husband or a family member, right? So you don't touch, you don't shake hands, right? You have no physical contact with a man who is not your husband or a member of your family, right? And punk is very physical. Punk is very intimate. Punk is very much go out and grab someone. Go out and grab a few people. Right? If you've ever been in or seen stuff like a mosh pit, right? Uh, yeah, there's definite lots of grabbing, lots of touching, Lots of, hugging and squeezing and stuff like that. Also, again, because we are talking about very visceral, physical, worldly music, if they get into the punk scene, and this is not like the big leagues, like you're a big star now, just like the regular low level punk scene, like at you know, your local like nightclubs and whatnot. Guess what? They're gonna run into drugs, right? People using drugs around them, people offering them drugs, people possibly drugging them, right? They're going to run into drugs. They're going to run into alcohol, which I know is a big no-no in Islam. They're going to run into people having sex. They're going to run into people offering them sex. They are going to run into pretty much every sin imaginable because it's the punk scene, it's the rock scene. It revels in all of that. Again, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Again, the devil's music. So, how exactly are they going to balance the very visceral, worldly, physical, sexual, uh, just sinful element of being a traveling musician in the punk scene with being adherent to one's religion? I mean, to my understanding, you're not supposed to even swear in Islam. Of course, you're not supposed to swear in any religion, but nobody, including myself, fully adheres to that. But again, it's like, how does the songwriting go, right? Because a lot of, especially in punk bands, right, a lot of them are, very profane, angry, violent, obscene lyrics. So, what are you going to do about that? Or just the band names. I mean, you think of bands, the most famous punk band probably is a band from Britain, right, called the Sex Pistols, right? And what's their one of their major big hits? Anarchy in the UK, right? Which literally starts out with, I am an anarchist, right? I don't know what I want, but I know how to get it, right? In fact, how does the song go? I am the Antichrist. I am an anarchist. I don't know what I want, but I know how to get it. I want to destroy and so on and so on and so forth, right? But that's punk. I don't see how these two can have a happy marriage, if that makes any sense. They're just too different. A lot of people in the punk scene or the rock and roll scene maybe find religion or come back to religion later, when they've been through the rock and roll lifestyle. And of course, whenever I'm making a video, the phone rings, right? Every single freaking time. But anyway, a lot of them maybe find religion later, right? Like Prince and many others did. Uh, Once they've been through all the sex and booze and drugs and the uh, physical and mental and emotional toll being a big rock star takes on you, right? But most of the time, when somebody who is religious goes into something as worldly and sinful and pro sin as the music business, especially something as like punk or like rock and roll. And I speak as somebody who's a huge hard rock fan, but I don't make the music. I just listen to it, right? But when you make a living in that type of scene, right? You're it's nearly impossible. It's almost impossible to actually be adherent to your faith and still be a success in something that worldly, right? Something's got to give. Even the Bible says that you can't serve two masters. And honestly, in most cases, the master that is dropped is the spiritual one, right? People abandon God for the successes of the world. That's nothing. That's nothing new. It's a tragedy, but it's nothing new. So again, it makes me wonder about if they're going to be honest about that particular element of being in a punk band and being in the punk scene, or how about things like, for example, if it's an all-female Muslim punk band and you have at least one woman who, wears the face veil and everything, then do you have like female-only like events to make them comfortable? Because the majority of people who listen to punk are male. It's very male-dominated, both in the number of performers and in audience. So how do they leverage that out? Right? So I just wonder if they ever considered all of these points when they were making this show, because I do think that, especially if one wants an honest depiction of what it would be like to be in a Muslim punk band, you need to consider the Muslim part and the punk part, and how these two would clash constantly, because they are just too opposite. They're just too opposite. It's like oil and water. They don't mix. You cannot have both. You choose one or the other, but you can't have both. So there's that, right? That's the first thing. Now the second thing, which is kind of what spurred me to make this video, which is the name of the band. Ladyparts. Ladyparts? Really, Peacock? That was the best you could come up with. Ladyparts. Because we're blind and we can't tell that it's 5 women here, right? At least they have one for like each instrument. You have the vocalist, you have the lead guitarist, you have the rhythm guitarist, you have the bassist, right? You have the drummer, and I'm guessing someone, maybe the lead singer, can play keyboard or piano if they need it. But really, lady parts? Like, have you ever heard of a female band name before? Let me list just some female acts, right? The Runaways, the Donnas, Gem and the Holograms, the Supremes, the Shondells, TLC, the Spice Girls, Blackpink, Heart. Oh God, I need one more. I have 9. Man, it'll come to me. It'll come to me, right? So many different female bands, female band names. And you go with lady parts, right? Now, yeah, some band names, like, say, the Spice Girls, tell you what the gender is. But even then, that's not always accurate, because Queen, right? Queen is not full of English women. It's English men, right? Although Adam Lambert and Freddie Mercury might be honorary women. I'm not quite sure. I'm joking, kind of. But, for real, or you have bands like Jane's Addiction. Again, not about a woman named Jane. And there's no females in it. Right? But, oh, Bananarama. See, I got 10. Bananarama. The Go-Go's. And many, many, many more. I got 11. Right? But you're telling me that out of all of the female bands, or female-fronted bands, right? Like Garbage, or Hole, right? Or the bands like that, right? That you could not get a better band name than Lady Parts. This was all you could come up with. When the majority of the names are listed, don't even mention gender, right? Runaways is not a gender, right? Hard is not a gender. Blackpink is not a gender. You could be a Bret Hart fan for all I know, calling yourself Blackpink, right? But you guys just have to be so woke and just so corporate, right? You see this right on the corner, right? Peacock is pride, right? No, y'all are corporate. Y'all are corporate. And you are so unimaginative because you are corporate. You are so unimaginative, and apparently don't do any research or history into rock music or punk or anything else, that you don't think of a decent band name. let me give y'all a suggestion. Just a few, right? You're in punk. It's dark, it's violent, it's edgy. You need something that sounds somewhat similar. How about this? How about, especially if you want to stick with the whole female theme, why not call them the Night Witches? Let me explain. It's dark, it's edgy, it implies gender, and it's an actual historical reference. Because the Night Witches were indeed they were a part of the Soviet Union, right? They were basically female fighter pilots for the Soviets during World War II who bombed the Nazis, right? So you could have used that. You could have called them the Night Witches and backed it up by saying it's an actual pro-female and anti-Nazi band name. But instead, you go with the incredibly corporate and focus tested Ladyparts because, again, you assume that we are blind and don't realize that there's 5 women in the band. But we'll see if the celebrity skin sticks to them. Let's see what happens, right? But anyway, that's the video. And please let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good day and night wherever you are. Bye.